following is a 1st Marine Aircraft Wing taped historical interview. The interviewee is Major Henry L. Eisenson, 078516 USMC, NATOPS officer and pilot attached to HMM 163, MAG 36, Quang Tri, Republic of Vietnam. The interviewer is Corporal Norman R. Carlson, 218-5474 USMC. This interview takes place at Quang Tri, Republic of Vietnam on 20 January 1968. The subject of this interview is Mission 58 Bravo of 18 January 1968, an emergency medevac mission. The events described in this interview occurred during a period of 1300 and 1500 on January 1968. This interview is classified confidential until downgraded by higher authority.
On 18 January 1967, I was attached to and assigned to fly with HMM 163. On that date, I was scheduled to give Captain F.M. Rivers a NATOPS check, concurrently flying day medevac in support of the regiments surrounding the Quang Tri area. At 13:02 on the 18th, we received mission number 58 Bravo from Reaction Alpha, requiring a pickup of at least 5 emergency medevacs in the vicinity of Darting Star's position about 2 miles northeast of Thien. We were advised that though the zone was not secure, we could expect to find, in addition to our normal Huey escort, 2 additional gunships in the vicinity of the pickup zone itself. We departed Quang Tri Airfield at about 13:15 and flew direct via Dong Ha to a point south of Gio Lin, where we orbited while our escort aircraft investigated the situation in the landing zone area itself. While orbiting, we received information that the zone was taking heavy incoming automatic weapons fire and mortar fire as well. An airstrike was being conducted by the AO orbiting the zone, and we were told to await further word while orbiting in the vicinity of Gio Lin. After about 15 minutes of orbiting, we were down to about 500 pounds of fuel, and our escort aircraft cleared us to continue along the east-west trace to Alpha 3, where we were to orbit and await further instructions. We arrived at Alpha 3 after about 2 minutes low-altitude flying down the trace, and in order to conserve gas, I decided to land. Captain Rivers was in the right seat of the aircraft as the NATOPS checkee. I was riding in the left seat. He had a windshield wiper, I did not, and because of the reduced visibility due to rain on the windshield, Captain Rivers was flying the aircraft throughout the first phase of this flight. Eventually, we were cleared to depart Alpha 3 by our chase aircraft and advised that smoke would be popped in the landing zone. We flew to Thien and took up a heading of 020, flew for approximately a minute and a half, expecting smoke, but we didn't see it. Evidently, there had been a communications difficulty, and the ground personnel were not aware that we were inbound. We executed an immediate left-hand turn, returned to Thien, then eased back down the trace to Alpha 3 and waited again. We were cleared in almost immediately. This time it was agreed that despite the fact that there was only one color smoke available in both the AO's aircraft and the landing zone, that the smoke marking the enemy positions would be popped approximately 30 seconds prior to that yellow smoke marking the landing zone. Captain Rivers flew beautifully. He approached the zone at high airspeed and low altitude, spotted the friendly position in extremely close proximity to the enemy position, executed a side flare and a landing. No one was too enthusiastic about going into this zone, but we had been advised repeatedly over the air by the ground units involved that the casualties being taken were extremely critical, that the situation itself was very grave, that the company commander had been seriously wounded, and then the radio operator said, "I guess I'm the 1-4 now, the 1-4's been hit." This, I think, assisted in providing motivation on the part of the crew of our aircraft to attempt the pickup. Once in the zone, we were fortunate in being slightly lower than the surrounding terrain and in somewhat defilade position. The fire, heavy automatic weapons fire, was passing over the rotor disc, we thought. Evidently, that was all that the NVA, within about 50 to 100 meters of the zone, could see. It took some time, about 3 minutes, to load the wounded aboard the aircraft. I took control of the aircraft as I heard rounds snapping through the magnesium skin with almost terrible regularity. I held the aircraft on the ground for about another minute or a minute and a half while the wounded were loaded aboard. Once notified by my crew chief that we were loaded and ready to go, I bounced into the air with a backward takeoff, noted that we had lost our auxiliary hydraulic system, were having serious control problems, departed the zone, weaving through the air, trying to avoid enemy fire, and asked Captain Rivers to assist me on the controls as they became too rough, too difficult for one person to fly. We landed at Alpha 3 and transferred our passengers, the wounded, to the next aircraft that had escorted us in. Upon inspecting our aircraft, we found that we had taken somewhere between 12 and 20 hits involving the tail rotor drive shaft, tail rotor, main rotor blades, transmission, passenger compartment, auxiliary hydraulic system, and of course other hits through sheet metal and various parts of the fuselage. Our corpsman, Hospitalman Parrish, did an outstanding job in treating the wounded in the aircraft after he had been hit, and then amazingly assisted in carrying the wounded to the escort aircraft for transport to Delta Med once we had landed at Alpha 3. He then refused Medevac himself until an additional aircraft could be brought in to take him to Delta Med to be treated for his wounds. My gunner and crew chief, in addition, supported the mission admirably by assisting in expediting the loading and transfer of the wounded, calling fire, and providing normal gun support en route. Captain Rivers is one of the few pilots that I would have trusted to continue flying the aircraft from the right seat on a mission of such danger and complexity, while I sat petrified in the left seat. In general, I think the mission was necessary. It's possible we did save some lives. It's unfortunate that the aircraft was as badly damaged as it was, and that Hospitalman Parrish was wounded. But I feel that the mission could not possibly have been completed, and that the airplane would still be in the landing zone if it were not for the support of the Huey gunship, which we had escorting us and assisting us throughout the flight. One thing should be noted, that when we first lifted out of the pickup zone, the NVA in close proximity to that zone were in plain sight. They were no more than 50 to 100 meters away, and amazingly were not lying down, but were standing. They were wearing tannish uniforms, camouflaged with shrubbery, were firing from the hip, and had at least one machine gun mounted in plain view of the friendly position. They were evidently very confident, or perhaps resigned, because I understand that they retained this position in nearly full view of friendly forces for some time thereafter, which permitted the Huey guns which proceeded to the area to virtually wipe them out in support of the ground units. The NVA that we saw did not run, did not hide, had no holes dug, did not even sit or lie down. They were standing and shooting, despite the numerical advantage and firepower advantage of the Marine forces in the area.
Thank you, Major Eisenson.